Hey everyone, how is it going? Welcome to today's Monster Monday episode of the Technicolor Mike B Show. Yes, it is Monster Monday. And this is today's design concept that we created. Yep. Just a custom monster design, and we're going to continue what I did the other day and just sort of talk about random topics instead of trying to come up with a bunch of jokes every day. Maybe I'll do jokes occasionally, maybe I'll do trivia occasionally. But yep, today we're just going to talk, and it's going to be a question and answer session. So I get people asking me a lot of times, where do I come up with all of the ideas for my face paint designs? If you've been watching for a while, I started doing multiple designs per week, almost daily at first, since last March, and cut back more recently. And if you looked at all of the designs, you might see I've done a dog 5 or 6 times in that time period, but every one of those dogs was a different dog. It's always been one of my goals, was to get each design to be different from the one before. And that means I've had to come up with a lot of different designs. Every time I did a clown video, it was a different face on the clown. It wasn't the same face as the previous video. So I had to come up with a dozen different clown faces. For every time I did a video, I had to come up with a different dog. Every time I wanted to do a dog, a different tiger, a different alien, a different monster. So where do I come up with all of these ideas? Really, I spend a lot of time on the internet, on Google, searching. Probably a day goes by where I don't at least go on to Google and just type in face painting designs or something of that nature. I might specify a little bit more specifically that I'm looking for a fantasy design, or a blue design, or a purple design, or a boy design, or steampunk, or whatever I'm looking for. But yeah, I'll look at pictures almost every day, just seeing what is out there and trying to come up with inspiration. And that sort of leads me into what I wanted to talk about today. I've never taken a psychology class, so yeah, I probably don't know the right terms, won't get everything correct, but years ago I was reading a book, and one of the main characters in the story was eventually diagnosed as being face blind. And as it was described in that book, that person could see other people, but didn't really recognize faces. Every face looked the same. It was just eyes, nose, mouth, and whatnot. And the only way that person really could tell someone apart was when there was a distinguishing feature to the person. So that one of their best friends had a scar on their face. It was a prominent feature, so he could tell, hey, the person with the scar, that's my friend Jimmy. And he might be able to tell the difference between recognize his teacher because the teacher had a beard, or someone that had curly red hair. That might be something that he can recognize. But if he looked at a dozen people, he wouldn't see the people. He wouldn't see them as different. They would just be all clones of one another. So when he witnessed a crime and the police were asking him to describe what he saw, he had no idea. He couldn't. There's a person. There's a man. There's a woman. They were older than him. But no, he couldn't provide any details, and he didn't understand that his brain was different, and it wasn't until a friend of his eventually sort of figured it out, solved the mystery of why he couldn't provide any better clues so they could figure out who did it. And that eventually led me to asking a question on Facebook to my friends of how do they think? Can they close their eyes and imagine a tree and see the tree, visualize it, describe it? I've never been able to do that. My brain just does not work that way. I can't see pictures. Now, when I dream, as far as I know, I've seen pictures in my dreams. I could sort of recall things that happened, and as far as I know, they are as much visual based as they are action, sound, whatever based. But now I can't just close my eyes and see a picture in my head. So when it comes to face painting and coming up with a design, I have to see a design first before I can attempt it. That's partially why I sketch out all of my designs, especially if I'm trying something different. It's based on a picture, so I have something to go on, because I can't just see the design in my head. I will know when I'm doing it if it worked out right, if it's matching the image I'm thinking, but I can't physically picture it. I can't see it in my head to sort of know what it's supposed to look like. And so, yeah, I think when it comes to people, we don't necessarily realize when we're the same as everyone else and when we're different. There's aspects of our life that we just may never have explored in enough detail to sort of realize that we are different, we are unique. There are some people who are great with names and faces, that they could see someone and instantly remember who it is. If someone runs up to me in the grocery store and says, "Hey Mike, how's it going?" I have like no clue who they are. I have no clue where I know them from. I just assume that I must know them, so I'll be polite and answer them, but yeah, half the time I have no idea who I'm talking to. And so it's not that I'm face blind, but I'm not a visual thinker. And but I can hear myself think that I can just as easily have this conversation in my head without talking as I do talk, and I can continue to think in my head, what should I say next? Where is this conversation going? Am I on track? So I can have multiple trains of verbal thought going on in my head, but that's really the only kind of thought I have. I can't hear music, I can't hear sounds, I can only hear my own voice in the form of thoughts. I can't see pictures in my head. Yeah. And I don't think everyone realizes that yet some people are good at math. They can see numbers, they can see equations, numbers just come naturally to them, and other people, it doesn't. Some people are good at sports and hand-eye coordination and trivia and different things. That's because we are all wired differently in our brains. We all think differently. There's not just one way to think. There's not just one way to see the world around us. And I don't think we always realize what makes ourselves unique and different from everyone else around us. And that just because we realize something, because we see something, it's so obvious to us, it doesn't mean it's obvious to someone else. And maybe that's why we're into this whole realization of Black Lives Matter and racial biasing and racial profiling and different things like that, that people are starting to wake up and realize maybe the way I've seen the world this whole time is different. Maybe it's not how everyone else sees the world around them. It's not how everyone else thinks. So yeah, my brain, I can recall conversations we've had, movies I've seen, stories I've read, details, events back from grade school and a long time ago, places I've gone, things I've done. So yeah, I used to say I had a photographic memory, which to me just meant that I remember things that have happened, not that I can physically see the things in my head. If someone was to say, think of a bike or make me a balloon bike, I'm going to, what do I know about bikes? What information can I provide in a more verbal sense instead of a visual sense? I'm like, well, bike has two wheels, a front wheel and a back wheel. Bike has pedals, and the pedals are somewhere between the wheel, and there's a frame, and there's handlebars, and there's a seat. So I can conceptualize what a bike looks like, but as hard as I try, I can't put an image of a bike in my head. So I would have a hard time putting it on piece of paper and sketching a bike from memory without having to just sort of, well, there's a wheel, and I know there's a handlebar connected to the front wheel, and the seat's somewhere here, and there's a frame, and I know the frame is like a triangle, and the girl's frame dips lower than the boy's frame. So I might be able to like deduce the shape of a bike and draw it, but it won't be like an accurate bike unless I've drawn it a dozen times and I have like the hand-eye coordination that goes with that type of thought process, of that type of design. So for me, I come up with designs by seeing other people's designs, by looking at old designs I've done. And I will look at the design and say, I like this aspect of that design. I'm going to try doing that again and incorporate that into another design. But it's all based on having seen it before. So like there are face painters out there that can just do these great tribal faces, these great abstract faces, just little curls and swirls and flowers. I struggle with that type of design because I can't mentally picture it in my head. I could now, okay, so I'm going to draw a flower, and let's see, we'll put another flower here. And I've taken enough classes in face painting to sort of know that there should be a focal point of a design, that groups of three work well together, and where the highlights and shadows might work best. But I can't see that face, so it's like until I've seen a picture of a face paint design, till I've tried to sketch a design out, I can't create that design. And as far as I know, there are other people who can see those designs, that they do see visually in their head and can execute designs differently than I can. So yeah, that's just sort of my thoughts on how people think and perceive the world. That what we know, what we see, how we understand the world may not be how everyone else is processing the world around them. We are unique. We are different. There are a dozen different ways to perceive the world. And like, if you were born deaf, you might not know what it is that you're missing. You might not understand what the world of communication is like for those who can hear. So yeah, if you've never studied psychology, you've never read up on these topics, you might not realize how you in your mind and your brain are different, how you and your mind and your brain are similar. That I had friends that say that it's like they see things in like a three-dimensional numerical pattern, and it was interesting just asking people on Facebook, how do they see the world around them? It's one of those things that I'm always curious. I do a lot of reading. I spend a lot of time on Google, and I know a little bit about a lot of subjects. So I might not have the right words to say to describe what I'm talking about, but look it up. And it all started years ago when I read a book about someone who was face blind, and I forget what that condition is called. So yeah, that's what we are talking about today. And it was Monster Monday. Here's my balloon, and this is my great monster face. So thanks for watching. Until next time, see you later, alligator. After a while, crocodile.